Okay, let me go ahead and introduce the gradient tool. And then after that, I'm going to show you how you can use it on layer masks. Okay, the gradient tool can be used for evil, right? It often is. So it is underneath your paint bucket tool. Okay, it's your first selection. So G is the keyboard shortcut. Let me point out a couple of things just with black and white. Okay, if I click and pull, I'm telling what direction for the gradient to go. Okay. Right here I have black in my foreground and white in my background. I can switch those and go like that. Okay. You notice up here in the top left, this shows you what your gradient will look like. To the right of that, you'll see different gradients. So for example, this one, if you hover over top, it'll tell you this one's a radial. Okay. This one is an angle gradient. It makes it kind of look like a pyramid or a cone, I guess. Okay, you also have your reflected gradient, and the last one is like this diamond one. So there we go. So this will kind of give you like an effect of a pipe. Okay, and this diamond one, I have, God's honest truth, I have no idea what on earth you would ever use this for, other than making that shape. Okay. The reason why I say the gradients are used for evil is because people fall in love with them because they think that smooth blending is the be-all end-all, so they like to play with it a lot. And they'll put gradients on everything, and I know gradient meshes are really in right now. For like Illustrator, I could live without them. Okay, let me point out a couple of things. One is you obviously don't have to do black and white. Okay, on your gradient. Okay, and the other one is if you click on the actual gradient itself here up at the top. Okay, you can now they have a gradient editor here in Photoshop. Okay, and there are lots of things that are kind of fun to play with, but again are kind of terrible. You can also have a gradient. Let me point out first with more than 2 colors. So all you have to do is just click where the finger is, okay, and if I double click on that swatch, okay, I can add a new color, double click on the swatch, add a new color. These little diamonds here will tell you how much distance there is between your 2 colors. Okay. All right, and let's do one more, and let's make it really putrid. Okay, there we go. Fantastic. This will be very classy. Okay, so now when I pull my gradient, you'll notice up at the top, okay, it looks like a clown ate a bag of Skittles and barfed. Okay, oh, it's terrible. All right, it's easy enough to reset. I just click on my gradient again, come back up to my basics, all right, and select my first option. Okay, you will notice as well, your second option here is you can also have a foreground to transparent. Okay, so for example, if I wanted to take like a dark blue or something and make it transparent, okay, I can do that. I'm going to make a new layer. Okay, so this is useful in some ways. Go ahead and feel free to go in and play with it. They have all kinds of presets here that you could pick. Like, good Lord Almighty, that is awful. Sorry, that's like 1970s. I feel like I need a bad mustache and I don't know, something. Okay, iridescence, pastels. Okay, all kinds of things you can play with. The important thing to remember, though, is that this stays until you change it. So make sure you come back in here and change it back to your basic. Okay, otherwise, the next time you use the grading tool, it's not going to work the way that you want it to. All right, so that said, let's come to this file. By the way, I have no idea who these people are. This is just footage that I found and put together. I did pose these people. Anyway, so here's what I want to do. You will note that this is a really not a great photo montage, right? And the reasons why are, first of all, the sky and the ground meet really harshly. Okay, that's not the way that works. there's no shadow underneath the couple, and it looks like they're hovering on top of the grass. So we're going to fix that in a couple of ways. Let's start with the sky. Now here's where my gradient comes into play. So I'm going to set my foreground background colors to black and white. Remember, you can reset your palette here by hitting D. Okay, X switches between foreground and background. Okay, so what I'm going to do is make a layer mask on my sky level. Okay, layer here. I'm just going to click the layer mask. I'm going to use my gradient, and since black conceals and white reveals, I just want to make it look like there's some atmospheric perspective. Now with the gradient, be aware, okay, if you hold down Shift, it will constrain it, okay, to 90-degree and 45-degree angles. So that's what I want to do. What I don't want to do is click and pull like this. Okay, don't do that. If you do it, fix it. Just step back. Okay, and I'm going to start down here and click and pull up a little bit. You can play with it as much as you want. Okay, until you get the effect that you want. That's too far, right? And sometimes it's easier just to step back. Okay. And again, all I'm trying to do is get rid of that hard line and just have a little bit of atmospheric perspective. All right. So now it looks like an actual skies meeting. Okay. Painting a shadow underneath the people is pretty easy. All I have to do is make a new layer, pull underneath the people. I'm going to grab a large brush, pick a fairly dark color, set my mode to multiply. I don't want my opacity more than 30%. I also don't want super strong shadows. All right, just enough, right, to make them look like they're sitting there. Now the last thing we want to fix is how it looks like there's no grass in front of them. Okay, here we're going to go back to our old friend, the smudge tool. Okay, I'm going to go ahead on the people layer. I'm going to go ahead and make another layer mask. Oops. Here's what I want to do first, though. I want to select them by Command or Control clicking, then make a layer mask. Okay. And you notice it doesn't seem to do anything, but what it has done is it's applied a layer mask around them. And now if I manipulate by pulling that layer mask over top, it'll make it look like the grass is coming through. So with and I've noticed this with several people with the quick mask, okay, with the smudge tool, make sure you look at your strength. Okay. If your strength is set to 100%, and let me make it bigger so you can see. When I click and drag, right, you see how I can basically pull it to almost forever, right? So when you do it really small, right, and I'm picking something about the width of the grass, if I do that, it makes it look like there's a wire or something instead of grass. Okay. Conversely, if I set it all the way down to 50%, okay, it barely looks like it does anything. I have found, a good starting point is 70%. Okay. With that, I can kind of start to pull, and it takes a couple of clicks. Okay. But you'll notice, right, it has nice sharp ends now to the grass. So essentially, all I'm doing is I'm following the path of some of these pieces of grass. Okay, and I don't have to do it for all of them, obviously. Okay, but I do want to make it look like, okay, let me zoom out a little bit. You see how it's starting to look like there's grass in front of her now? That's all I'm trying to do. Okay, so for this file, do all the steps that I've shown. Make sure you put the grass in front of where it belongs. Okay, so like on this dude's elbow, for example, for sure, we would see some grass in front of it. Now, we would not see grass up here on his shoulder, okay, or even here, because he's leaning against her leg. So I wouldn't go much further than about that. Okay. Remember, Photoshop works best when you're not doing huge steps, but when you're augmenting things. All right, Photoshop is much better at augmenting reality than inventing it. So these are all little tricks you can use, okay, to take what is already there and make your scenes look better.